Oh, dear ones, listen to me. There is a place, so sacred, so powerful, so life-changing that when you enter in, you will never be the same again. I speak of the secret place with God, that holy, hidden chamber where heaven touches earth, where weak men and women are clothed in divine power, where the impossible becomes possible. I plead with you today. Don't miss this. There are people listening to my voice right now who are longing, desperate for something real, something more than empty religion, something deeper than words, something more powerful than the mind can comprehend. You have tried everything, but there is still a hunger, still a void. Let me tell you, my beloved, there is a place where the presence of God is so real, so overwhelming, that no sickness can stand, no sorrow can remain, no fear can survive. Do you long for Him? Do you hunger for something beyond what this world can offer? Then you must go beyond the outer courts of religion. You must enter the secret place. It is in this place that the Holy Spirit whispers, where the burdens of life fall away, where the anointing flows like a mighty river. It is in this place that the power of God is revealed. And I tell you this, if you will hear me today, if you will listen, if you will open your heart, you will discover something so glorious, so beyond words, that it will change your life forever. But you must desire it. You must long for it. You must be willing to let go of everything to gain what is most precious. Oh, my friends, don't just hear my words. Listen with your heart, because what I am about to share with you is not just a message. It is a call to step into the greatest reality you will ever know. Stay with me. Stay to the very end, because what is coming next is the key that will unlock the door to a life of divine presence and power. The power of divine presence is something beyond human comprehension, beyond what words can fully express. It is the essence of heaven itself touching earth, the reality of God dwelling among His people, and the supernatural invading the natural. When a man or a woman steps into this presence, they are never the same again. It is a presence that heals the brokenhearted, that lifts the fallen, that strengthens the weak, that brings light into the darkest places. There is no substitute for it, no human effort can replace it, and no earthly possession can compare to it. It is the presence of the living God, the very breath of heaven, the power that spoke the universe into existence, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. And that power is real, it is tangible, and it is available to those who truly seek it. Many have heard about God, they have read about Him, they have spoken His name, but they have never encountered His presence. There is a vast difference between knowing about God and knowing God, between talking about Him and experiencing Him. His presence is not found in religious rituals or lifeless traditions. It is not something manufactured by human hands. It cannot be summoned by mere words or emotions. The presence of God is holy, it is sovereign, it is divine, and when it comes, it transforms everything in its path. When the presence of God enters a room, it is undeniable. The atmosphere changes. Hearts begin to tremble, spirits become awakened, tears flow without explanation, and even those who have resisted Him for years find themselves unable to deny the reality of His power. There is something about being in the presence of God that causes the most hardened sinner to weep, that causes chains of addiction to fall, that causes fear to vanish in an instant. No demon can stand in the presence of God. No sickness can survive in the presence of God. No doubt can remain in the presence of God. Because when God moves, nothing remains the same. And that, dear ones, is the power of divine presence. It is not something that can be explained by human logic, nor is it something that can be debated in intellectual arguments. It is something that must be experienced. It is something that must be encountered. Many people go through life searching for answers, searching for fulfillment, searching for peace. They chase after money, after fame, after relationships, after worldly success, but they still feel empty. They may find temporary satisfaction, but nothing lasts. Nothing fills the void, because that void was never meant to be filled with things. It was meant to be filled with the presence of God. The presence of God is the only thing that satisfies the deepest hunger of the soul. It is the only thing that brings lasting peace, the only thing that brings true joy, the only thing that gives life real meaning. Without His presence, life is nothing more than an endless pursuit of things that will never satisfy. When a person truly encounters the presence of God, their entire perspective shifts. They no longer crave the things of this world the way they once did. They no longer find pleasure in sin the way they once did. The things that once seemed so important suddenly lose their grip. The presence of God changes priorities, it changes desires, it changes affections. When the presence of God touches a life, that life is forever marked. There is no going back, because once you have tasted the presence of the living God, nothing else will ever be enough. This is why the presence of God is the most valuable thing a person can have. It is more valuable than silver or gold, more precious than the rarest treasure. Moses understood this when he said, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here." He knew that without the presence of God, nothing else mattered. The greatest gift God could give his people was not wealth, not power, not land, but himself, his presence. Because in his presence there is everything. There is healing, there is wisdom, there is strength, there is provision, there is peace, there is joy. Everything we need is found in his presence. And yet so many live without it. So many settle for a form of godliness but deny its power. So many go through life without ever truly knowing what it means to dwell in his presence. But oh, what a tragedy it is to live a life without the presence of God. What a tragedy it is to have religion but no relationship, to have knowledge but no experience, to have words but no power. Because the power of divine presence is what makes all the difference. It is what turns a dead heart into a heart on fire. It is what takes a weak person and fills them with supernatural strength. It is what takes an ordinary life and makes it extraordinary. This is the invitation that God gives to each one of us. To step into his presence, to dwell in the place where heaven touches earth, to experience the power that changes everything. But it is not for the passive. It is not for those who are content with surface-level Christianity. It is for those who hunger, those who thirst, those who are desperate for more. It is for those who are willing to let go of everything else to seek him with their whole heart. And to those who do, to those who truly seek, the presence of God will come in power. And when it does, they will never be the same again. True communion with God is not found in religious duty, nor is it achieved through mere intellectual knowledge. It is something far deeper, something so profound that once a person steps into it, their life is forever transformed. It is not about repeating prayers, attending services, or following a set of rules. True communion is an intimate, living relationship with the Almighty, a connection so real that it shapes every thought, every action, every desire. It is the difference between knowing about God and knowing him personally, between speaking of him and hearing his voice, between following him from a distance and walking with him as a friend. Many people spend their lives practicing religion but never experience this kind of communion. They know the words of Scripture, they follow traditions, they try their best to live good lives, but their hearts remain distant. They go through the motions but never touch the reality of his presence. And because of this, they never truly encounter the fullness of what God desires for them. God is not interested in empty rituals. He is not looking for people who simply perform religious duties. What he longs for is relationship, deep and personal. From the very beginning, his desire has always been to dwell with his people, to walk with them, to speak with them, to share in the most intimate details of their lives. That is why he created man in his own image, why he walked with Adam in the cool of the garden. That is why he sent his son, so that the barrier of sin could be broken, so that nothing would stand between him and his people. The greatest longing of God's heart is for his children to come close, to know him not as a distant ruler, but as a loving father, not as an idea, but as a living presence. But true communion requires more than just belief. It requires surrender. It requires a heart that is open, a heart that is willing to lay down everything to pursue him. It is not something that happens by accident, nor is it something that can be experienced casually. It must be sought after. It must be desired above all else. Those who truly commune with God are those who hunger for him, who thirst for his presence, who are willing to turn away from distractions, from the noise of the world, from the things that pull them away. Communion with God is not a one-time experience. It is not something that happens only in moments of need or crisis. It is a lifestyle. It is a continual dwelling in his presence, a daily walking with him, a constant awareness of his nearness. Many people struggle to experience this kind of intimacy with God because their hearts are divided. They want his presence, but they also want the things of the world. They desire to hear his voice, but they fill their minds with other voices. They long for closeness with him, but they are unwilling to make room for him in their lives. But true communion cannot be shared with anything else. It requires a heart that is fully given, fully surrendered, fully devoted. It is not enough to seek him occasionally, to come to him only when it is convenient. He must become the very center of life, the very heartbeat of the soul. When a person enters into true communion with God, everything changes. They begin to see with new eyes, to hear with new ears, to understand with a wisdom that is not their own. They are no longer driven by fear, by anxiety, by the pressures of the world, because they are anchored in something greater. Their joy is not dependent on circumstances. Their peace is not shaken by trials, because they have found the source of all things in Him. They no longer seek fulfillment in things that fade, because they have tasted something eternal. This is the life that God calls His people to, a life of unbroken fellowship, a life where His presence is not just something experienced in moments, but something that fills every breath, every step, every day. To walk in true communion with God is to live in a place of constant awareness of His presence. It is to wake up with Him, to go through the day with Him, to lay down at night knowing that He is near. It is to speak to Him not as a distant deity, but as a friend, to hear His whispers, to be led by His Spirit. It is to have a heart that is sensitive to His voice, that responds to His promptings, that delights in His ways. It is not something that is forced or manufactured. It is something that flows naturally from a heart that is fully yielded. There are many who wonder why they feel distant from God, why they do not experience His presence, why they do not hear His voice. But the truth is, God has not moved. He is always near, always waiting, always ready to reveal Himself. The question is not whether He is present, but whether we are making room for Him. Communion with God is not reserved for a select few. It is available to all who desire it, to all who are willing to seek it, to all who are willing to let go of lesser things, to make Him their greatest pursuit. There is no greater privilege, no greater joy, no greater calling than to walk in true communion with God. It is the very purpose for which we were created, the very reason for our existence. Everything else fades, everything else passes away, but this remains. And for those who choose to enter into this kind of relationship with Him, there is no greater reward, because to know Him, to truly know Him, is to have found the greatest treasure of all. The presence of God is not just a theological concept or a distant reality reserved for a select few. It is something real, tangible, and available to anyone who truly desires it. Yet so many people live their lives without ever experiencing it. They go through their days searching for peace, longing for joy, and craving fulfillment. But they never realize that what they are looking for can only be found in the presence of God. His presence is not something that can be fabricated or substituted. It cannot be replaced by worldly pleasures, human relationships, or personal achievements. It is a divine reality, an atmosphere that changes everything it touches. And once a person steps into it, they can never be the same again. The presence of God is life itself. It is the very breath of our existence, the source of our strength, the wellspring of our peace. Without it, life is empty. Without it, the soul is restless. People may try to fill the void with temporary pleasures, with material success, with distractions of every kind, but nothing can take the place of His presence. That is why so many people, even those who appear to have everything, still feel lost. They chase after things that promise happiness but leave them feeling empty. They build lives filled with accomplishments, yet deep inside they know something is missing. That missing piece is the presence of God. But His presence is not something that is hidden or unreachable. It is not reserved only for the most righteous or the most spiritual. God desires for His presence to dwell with His people. He longs to pour out His Spirit, to fill hearts with His love, to surround lives with His glory. Yet so few truly experience it, not because He withholds it, but because they do not seek it. They allow distractions to take priority. They let the noise of the world drown out His voice. They chase after lesser things instead of pursuing the one thing that truly matters. And because of this, they live without the fullness of what God has promised. To experience the presence of God, the heart must be prepared. It cannot be cluttered with worldly concerns, weighed down with doubt, or divided in its affections. The presence of God is drawn to those who are hungry for it, to those who long for Him above all else. It is not found in mere routine or religious obligation, but in a heart that is fully surrendered. That is why so many who go through the motions of faith never truly encounter Him. They say the right words, they follow the right traditions, but their hearts are far from Him. God is not impressed by outward displays of devotion. He looks at the heart. And it is only the heart that is desperate for him, that yearns for him, that makes room for him, that will truly experience the power of his presence. When a person enters into the presence of God, everything changes. Fear is replaced by peace. Confusion is replaced by clarity. Weakness is replaced by strength. The presence of God brings transformation, not just in moments of worship, but in every area of life. It brings healing to broken places, restoration to weary souls, and joy that cannot be shaken. It is not a fleeting emotion or a temporary feeling. It is a reality that sustains, that empowers, that fills every empty place. That is why the enemy does everything in his power to keep people from experiencing it. He knows that once a person has truly encountered the presence of God, they will never settle for anything less. They will no longer be satisfied with the shallow things of this world, because they have tasted something greater. The presence of God is not something that comes and goes. It is not meant to be experienced only in special moments or in certain places. It is meant to be a continual reality, a constant dwelling. God's presence is available at all times, in all places, for all who desire it. But it requires a heart that is willing to seek it, to prioritize it, to make it the foundation of life. Many people cry out for his presence, but are unwilling to change their ways to make room for it. They want the benefits of his nearness, but they do not want to give up the things that pull them away. But to truly walk in his presence, nothing can take his place. He must be first. He must be the center. He must be the desire above all desire. There is no substitute for the presence of God. No success, no possession, no human relationship can compare. Once a person has tasted it, they know that nothing else will satisfy. The presence of God is the greatest gift, the greatest treasure, the greatest reality a person can ever experience. And the beauty of it is that it is available to all. It is not just for a select few. It is not just for the spiritual elite. It is for anyone who will come, who will seek, who will surrender. God is not far off. He is near. He is waiting. He is calling his people to step into his presence, to dwell in his presence, to live in his presence. And for those who answer that call, there is no greater joy, no greater peace, no greater life than to abide with him forever. The power of God is not an abstract idea or a distant force. It is a living reality, a presence that transforms, a force that moves mountains and changes lives. So many people talk about the power of God, but few truly experience it. They hear stories of miracles, they read about signs and wonders, they know that God is able, but they live without ever walking in that power themselves. And the reason is simple. God's power is not something that is accessed through mere knowledge. It is not something that comes just by wishing for it. It is something that flows through those who are surrendered, those who are yielded, those who have emptied themselves so that he may fill them. The power of God is not just for those on a platform, not just for those who have a name, not just for those in ministry. It is for anyone who will make room for it, anyone who will align their life with God's will, anyone who will step into the place where his presence dwells. Many people desire the power of God, but they do not understand the cost of it. They want to see miracles, they want to walk in authority, they want to experience the supernatural, but they are unwilling to go through the process. They want the result, but they do not want the surrender. And yet all throughout history, those who carried the greatest power of God were those who had laid down the most. They were those who had been broken before him, those who had emptied themselves of their own desires, those who had come to the end of themselves so that he could take over. God's power is not given to those who wish to use it for their own purposes. It is not given to those who want it for their own gain. It is given to those who are willing to be vessels, those who desire nothing more than for his will to be done through them. There is a price for power. There is a cost for the anointing. Many admire the great men and women of God who have walked in divine power, but they do not see the price they paid. They do not see the nights of prayer, the hours of seeking, the sacrifices made in the secret place. They do not see the moments of loneliness, the trials, the tests, the refining that had to take place before the power of God could be revealed in their lives. And yet, there is no shortcut to power. There is no easy way to carry the anointing. It comes only to those who are willing to pay the price, those who are willing to be set apart, those who will not compromise, those who will not settle for anything less than God's perfect will. The power of God is not just for show. It is not just to amaze or to impress. It is for a purpose. It is given so that lives may be changed, so that souls may be saved, so that darkness may be driven back. It is not given so that people can build their own kingdoms, so that they can receive the praise of men, so that they can boast of their own abilities. It is given so that God may be glorified. And that is why so many never walk in it, because their hearts are not ready. They seek the power for the wrong reasons. They desire it for themselves rather than for the glory of God. But God does not pour out his power on those who seek their own agenda. He pours it out on those who are wholly surrendered, those who seek only his will, those who long for nothing more than to be instruments in his hands. The world today needs the power of God. It does not need more empty words, more religious traditions, more powerless routines. It needs the power of God to break chains, to heal the sick, to deliver the oppressed, to bring revival. The world is desperate, lost, and broken. People are searching for something real, something beyond the natural, something that can truly change their lives. And the power of God is the only thing that can do that. It is the only thing that can turn a hardened heart into a heart of flesh. It is the only thing that can set a person free from the chains of sin and addiction. It is the only thing that can restore what has been lost, rebuild what has been destroyed, and breathe life into what has been dead. But the power of God is not something that is far away. It is not something that is only for a select few. It is available to anyone who will seek it, anyone who will hunger for it, anyone who will position themselves to receive it. The power of God is not about a special calling. It is about a willing heart. God does not look for ability. He looks for availability. He looks for those who will say yes, those who will surrender, those who will be willing vessels. The Dipani is for those who will say yes, those who will surrender, those who will be willing. Then when he finds such a person, he will pour out his spirit upon them in a way that will shake the world. There is a generation rising up who will walk in the power of God like never before, a generation that will not settle for powerless religion, a generation that will not be satisfied with going through the motions, a generation that will not be content with just hearing about miracles but will walk in them. This is the hour for the people of God to rise up in his power, to take their place, to step into their calling, but it will not happen without a price. It will not happen without a cost. It will not happen without a deep and total surrender. God is looking for those who will say, Lord, here I am, use me, fill me, let your power flow through me. He is looking for those who will not just seek the gifts, but will seek the giver. He is looking for those who will not just want his power, but will want him. Because when he finds such a heart, when he finds such a vessel, his power will flow in a way that will change everything. The question is not whether his power is available. The question is, are you willing to pay the price to walk in it? The presence of God is the greatest treasure a person can ever experience. It is more valuable than anything the world has to offer. It is greater than wealth, greater than fame, greater than success. The presence of God is life itself, for in his presence, everything changes. The presence of God is not just a feeling. It is not just an emotional experience. It is the very essence of God dwelling with his people. It is the place where the soul finds rest, where burdens are lifted, where fears disappear, where peace overflows. Many people search for joy, for fulfillment, for purpose, but they look in the wrong places. They try to find it in relationships, in achievements, in material things, but nothing in this world can compare to the presence of God. One moment in his presence is worth more than a lifetime of earthly pleasure. The presence of God is not reserved for a special few. It is not only for pastors, for preachers, for those in ministry. It is available to every person who desires it, every person who seeks it, every person who makes room for it in their life. But the sad truth is that many people live without ever experiencing the fullness of his presence. They go through life without knowing what it truly means to dwell with God, to walk with him, to have an intimate relationship with him. They hear about his presence, they read about it, they may even see others who carry it, but they do not experience it for themselves. And the reason is not that God is far away. The reason is that people have not made room for him. They have allowed the noise of the world to drown out his voice. They have filled their hearts with distractions, with worries, with desires that take the place of God. God's presence is not found in a hurried life. It is not found in a life that is filled with busyness, with endless activity, with constant striving. It is found in stillness, in surrender, in a heart that longs for nothing more than him. So many people want the presence of God, but they do not take the time to seek him. They want to experience his power, but they do not dwell in his presence. They want his blessings, but they do not spend time with him. But God does not reveal himself to those who are casual about him. He reveals himself to those who hunger for him, to those who make him their highest priority, to those who will not be satisfied with anything less than his presence. There is a price for living in the presence of God. It is not a price that is paid with money or with effort, but with surrender. It is a price that requires laying down everything else for the sake of knowing Him. It is a price that requires saying no to the things of the world, to the distractions, to the temptations, to anything that would pull the heart away from Him. The presence of God is for those who are willing to leave everything behind and follow Him. It is for those who desire Him more than they desire comfort, more than they desire success, more than they desire the approval of others. It is for those who will make the presence of God the center of their lives, the foundation of everything they do, the greatest pursuit of their hearts. The presence of God is the place of transformation. It is the place where chains are broken, where healing flows, where lives are changed. When a person truly encounters the presence of God, they can never be the same again. It is impossible to stand in the presence of the Almighty and remain unchanged. His presence burns away everything that is not of Him. It refines, it purifies, it makes whole. It removes fear, it destroys doubt, it fills the heart with faith. The presence of God is what gives power to a believer's life. Without His presence, Christianity becomes nothing more than a religion, a set of rules, an empty tradition. But with His presence, it becomes life itself. The world is full of people who are hungry for something real. They are tired of empty promises, tired of religion without power, tired of going through the motions without experiencing anything real. They are searching for something that will truly satisfy, something that will truly change them. And the only thing that can do that is the presence of God. The presence of God is what makes the difference. It is what separates true believers from those who only have a form of godliness. It is what sets apart those who truly know God from those who only know about Him. It is what gives power, what gives life, what brings true joy and peace. God is calling His people back to His presence. He's calling them to leave behind the distractions, to turn away from everything that has taken their focus away from Him, to come back to the place where He is their everything. He's calling them to seek Him, to dwell with Him, to make His presence their greatest desire. And when they do, they will experience Him in a way they never have before. They will know what it means to walk in His power, to hear His voice, to be led by His Spirit. They will live lives that are filled with His glory, lives that are marked by His presence. There is nothing greater than the presence of God. There is nothing more valuable, nothing more powerful, nothing more life-changing. And yet, so many live without it. So many go through life without ever experiencing its fullness. But it does not have to be that way. The presence of God is available to all who will seek it, to all who will make room for it, to all who will desire Him above everything else. And when a person makes the presence of God their dwelling place, they will never lack, they will never be empty, they will never be the same again. God is waiting for those who will come to Him, who will seek Him, who will make His presence their home. And when they do, they will find everything they have ever longed for in Him. The power of God's presence is something beyond human understanding. It is not something that can be explained by logic or reason. It is something that must be experienced. When the presence of God fills a life, everything changes. It is not just an emotional moment, not just a temporary feeling. It is a complete transformation. A shift in the very atmosphere of the soul. In His presence, the weak become strong, the broken are made whole, the lost find direction, and the weary are given new strength. There is nothing in this world that compares to the power of God's presence. No human effort, no amount of willpower, no earthly force can do what His presence can do. One moment with God, one encounter with His presence can accomplish more than a lifetime of striving. But the presence of God is not something that comes by accident. It does not come to those who live their lives half-heartedly, to those who treat their relationship with God as a secondary thing. The presence of God comes to those who seek Him with all their hearts. It comes to those who desire Him above all else, to those who are willing to surrender everything for the sake of knowing Him. The Bible says that God rewards those who diligently seek Him. He does not reveal Himself to those who are casual about Him. He reveals Himself to those who hunger for Him, to those who are desperate for His presence, to those who will not settle for anything less than Him. Many people want to see the power of God in their lives, but they are not willing to pay the price. They want His blessings, but they do not want to give Him their full surrender. They want to experience His presence, but they do not want to give up the things that are keeping them from Him. But God does not pour out His presence where He is not welcome. He does not move in a life that is filled with distractions, with sin, with self-will. If a person wants to walk in the power of God's presence, they must be willing to make room for Him. They must be willing to let go of everything that is standing in the way. They must be willing to say, Lord, I want you more than anything else in this world. I want your presence more than I want my own way, more than I want my own desires, more than I want anything this life has to offer. When a person truly surrenders to God, when they make His presence their highest priority, they will begin to see His power at work in their lives in ways they never imagined. They will begin to experience His leading, His guidance, His miracles. They will begin to see doors open that no man can shut. They will begin to walk in victory, in peace, in a joy that cannot be taken away. The presence of God is not just for a moment. It is something that can be lived in daily. It is something that can be carried everywhere a person goes. It is not just for church services, not just for prayer meetings. It is for everyday life. It is for the workplace, for the home, for every moment of every day. And when a person carries the presence of God with them, people around them will know it. They will see something different. They will sense something different. They may not be able to explain it, but they will know that there is something about that person that is not of this world. The power of God's presence is what sets His people apart. It is what makes the difference. It is what gives boldness, what gives authority, what brings miracles. It is what turns an ordinary life into a supernatural one. Without the presence of God, everything is empty. Without His presence, there is no power, no life, no true joy. But when His presence is there, everything changes. Fear disappears. Worry fades away. Doubt is replaced by faith. Weakness is replaced by strength. There is nothing greater than living in the presence of God. And yet so many people live without it. So many go through life never knowing what it truly means to walk with God, to experience His presence, to live in the fullness of His power. They settle for religion, for rituals, for traditions, but they never enter into the depths of what God has for them. They go through the motions, they say the right words, they do the right things, but their hearts are far from Him. But God is not looking for people who simply go through the motions. He is looking for people who will seek Him with all their hearts. He is looking for people who will make His presence their dwelling place, who will not be satisfied with anything less than Him. The presence of God is available to all who will seek it. It is not just for a select few. It is not just for those in ministry. It is for every believer, for every person who desires to know Him. But it must be pursued. It must be sought after. It must be valued above everything else. God does not force His presence upon anyone. He does not push His way into a life. He comes where He is invited, where He is welcomed, where He is sought after with a whole heart. And when He comes, He changes everything. There is nothing that compares to the presence of God. There is no substitute for it, no replacement for it. No amount of worldly success, no amount of earthly pleasure, no amount of human achievement can take its place. Only His presence can truly satisfy. Only His presence can truly fulfill. And those who have experienced it know that nothing else will ever be enough. Once a person has encountered the presence of God, they can never go back to a life without it. They will always hunger for more. They will always thirst for more. And God promises that those who hunger and thirst for Him will be filled. The power of God's presence is life itself. It is everything. It is what we were created for. And it is available to all who will seek Him, to all who will make room for Him, to all who will surrender to Him completely. There is no greater calling, no greater purpose, no greater joy than to live in the presence of the Almighty. And those who do will never be the same again. They will walk in power. They will walk in victory. They will walk in a peace that the world cannot understand. And their lives will be a testimony to the world of the reality of God.